Thank you very much. Thanks for that introduction, and thank you so much to all of my friends and family who came out. I really appreciate that, and it's really nice to see everyone. I'm going to be reading from my collection, The Days You Spent, which is structured in 3 sections. There's a long poem at the beginning and at the end. So I'm going to be starting to read from the 3rd section of the first long poem, which is called Horizons. At first, a park is just a park. Memories wear in slowly, taint casually. Before it became the site of our first kiss, or her awful breakup, or even that wretched downpour, all the park contained was its essential parkness, all trees and grass and anonymous children. The transformations happen elsewhere, too. Slowly, restaurants become that bar where we celebrated your promotion, the place we used to go after class, that place we avoid because your ex works there. Even transient spaces become loaded, subway stations taking on 3 stops till work, or remember that dinner party, way the heck out qualities. In the beginning, anonymity is everywhere. Slowly replaced, you miss it, almost. Mannequin. She is trapped in the store window, but her blank face betrays nothing. Her captors have arranged her in a sweetheart negligee and matching red silk robe. Eternally she carries a champagne glass, a mimosa perhaps, to her faceless husband, dressed in Hugo Boss. He appears ready to leave the tableau for work, but she remains trapped in her lingerie. Perhaps she will spend the morning endlessly arranging and rearranging the oversized metallic paper snowflakes on the wall behind her. Van Gogh City. Sometimes when I'm in the mood for arguing, I'll ask you, if this city were a painting, what painting would it be? Before you can answer, I jump in with the starry night, with all the energy swirling above, raining down in slow measure on the streets. And you laugh at me saying, don't you know that's every city, and not just this one in particular? No, this one is the Potato Eaters, except the table is in that diner on Queen Street, with the dark booths where no one speaks above a whisper. And I laugh at you for being disagreeable, so you say, oh yeah? Well, at least I didn't say sunflowers. And we are both silent, sipping our coffee in agreement for a moment. Because if there's one thing this city is not, it's sunflowers. Plant death. My houseplants conspire against me while I'm out. Synchronize their withering, unearth new shades of decay, cultivate exotic rots and molds that cause my heart to wilt, knowing that their every demise causes a small death in me. I'm a willing participant in their melodrama, singing as I coax with bigger pots, smaller watering cans, new fertilizer formulas. Their triumphant new shoots lift my spirit, their desiccation crumples it. Is this cycle their way of marking time, or do they sense their power? This next poem is dedicated to my parents, who came and are sitting over there. And when my brother and I were kids, we used to go on holiday in New England, in the White Mountains, and they always, in order to get somebody's nose out of a book and looking out the window at the scenery, would ask us a question about the scenery that we'd seen that day and reward us with an ice cream cone at the end of the day, if we got the question right. So here is ice cream questions. Driving through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, I neglected the scenery in favor of my storybook friends, Margaret, Anastasia, Ramona. To keep our eyes on the road, Mom and Dad asked my brother and me the ice cream question. The right answers rewarded with ice cream cones at the end of the drive. What is the height of Mount Washington? Why was it called Lonesome Lake? What kind of rock is forged by heat? What kind of traveler is forged by the ice cream question? Years later, our grown-up answers arrived by postcard. Rotting tomatoes. Rotting tomatoes are causing anxiety, dissolving in their basket, rotting. Ripe at the beginning of the week, 5 bodies, each sagging and sinking into one form, growing a clean white mold, delicate like whipped cream and hard to deem a color of decay. Frozen by my own fascination with their impending demise, I keep them, watching their end, their ominous falling, their slow dissolve under the menacing pressures. The Rush poem. This is for all the writers in the room. This poem must be written in the 10 minutes between shower and breakfast. 10 naked minutes, only a robe to stop the steamy shower warmth fading from the skin. Only a blank notebook to stop the half-remembered dreams and waking thoughts from fading into deadlines, appointments, and to-do lists. Books of poetry by the bed flip through like pornography, anything for a shortcut to image, metaphor. Before the day rolls in, before the notebook is abandoned. Cityscape. Concrete landscape, majestic in its peaks of 2 tall towers with rivers of cars streaming through. People who chat in outdoor cafes or wait to cross the street look like tufts of wild growth from this height, sprouting up amidst the gray. When I was in high school, I used to be a Girl Guide leader for the smallest group of guides, which are called Sparks, and they were the 5-year-olds. And one night I got a call from the mother of one of the 5-year-olds, and she said, my daughter just doesn't feel like coming in tonight. She's a bit sad. And I've always thought about that moment where, wouldn't it be nice if you could just use that as a legitimate excuse anytime that you just felt a little bit sad. So this poem is calling in Sad. Despite stern instructions, her body refused to get out of bed that morning. Luckily, her arm was more responsible and reached for the telephone, fingers dialing, lips articulating the appropriate words for that inappropriate state. What excuses do you make for that other part of you that sometimes sickens, that part without blood vessels to blue the skin or mucus to rattle the rib cage? Here's where she feels most alone. Here's where she feels most alone, sick at the doctor's office by herself after work, conspicuously alone among the other snifflers, hand unheld, feeling foolish at even the thought of calling somebody to her side. Nobody at her side a few weeks later, the evening gapes free. Dinner at the little cafe she loves, still warm in her stomach. Spontaneously, she decides to walk a little further. Who cares if fat snowflakes melt in her hair against the energized darkness of shadowy streets? Here is where she feels most alone. Amsterdam to Rotterdam. If you fall asleep on the train between Amsterdam and Rotterdam, slumber overcoming you like an armed bandit, overstuffed backpack beside you with its closest strap wrapped around your shoulder and the last action your tired mind could take post-jet lag before giving up on safety, rest assured that when you awake, you will be watched by a disapproving middle-aged lady whose face you will no longer remember 5 years down the road, or even by the time you make it to Berlin, but whose scolding you'll remember long after you've forgotten even the countryside scenery whizzing by, a scolding seemingly detailed but almost indecipherable in its noble but broken English, better than your non-existent Dutch. No doubt outlining the folly of your lapsed vigilance and the dangers that can result, a scolding that will have you taken aback at first, but that you will grow more and more grateful for as the years pass, and will cause you, in turn, to look out on future trains for those who look as tired as you felt, so you can reciprocate this guardianship. The morning the moon didn't set. On the morning the moon didn't set, she and he walked hand in hand under the twice bright sky. The moon's luminous whiteness matched the sun as they looked around for another sign the world was ending. Finding none, they sat down together on a bench in the leafy park. On the morning the moon didn't set, she could sense that everything changed, except that nothing had changed. Her hand still in his, their world still making sense, perhaps even more so as they gazed at sun and moon reunited at last. Animal City. The man who drives the bus is slowly turning into a rhinoceros. At first, I thought it was just his neck getting thicker, his cheeks jowlier, but now that his skin is thickening into a tough gray hide, it's really starting to show. The woman who sits in the front row of the bus would normally be the first to point this out, but her fingers no longer point as well now that they're turning into talons. Outside, the man watering the flowers is beginning to develop a bit of webbing between his toes, and the lady at the bank can't say more than a few words without emitting something of a whinny. I'll be okay, though. I've always thought I'd look good with a larger wingspan. And I actually wrote this poem after attending another reading series, so this is dedicated to my fellow readers. The Storytellers. Nobody calls anybody, but everybody shows up, like family. The room is dark, details painted over with a thick brush, smoke hanging in the air, masking expectation. Slowly, the room grows loud with recognition. Eyes and ears adjust to reveal familiar faces, voices, reconnecting, not where are you working, but what are you working on. In time, a hush signals the divide as pilgrim reader journeys forward and seasoned listeners fade back. Silence grows tangible. Outside, these subjects would be too big, conspicuous. You'd have to apologize before you started. Inside, everyone here knows the way that silence breaks, chest expanding, lips dry, as words rip into air, exposed thoughts like raw knuckles, as you hold on and wish back the silence. Speaking other people's thoughts, whispering in borrowed voices, the room fills with our stories. Parched listeners, we greedily consume these details, watering our imaginations until we too are swimming in shadows and colors. Listening, you fall into yourself, gather your own light and darkness, become spirited like a child allowed to stay up late. Later, we'll spill out into the night, satiated, not knowing when the next time will be, but sensing it was time to go. Like family, we listen and always come back. And I'm just going to read the end with the final long poem in the collection called Backward Glances. Look, they've knocked down that brick building near the university where we sat sometimes at night and talked about the way things would someday be. Remember that one time you put your hand on my shoulder and knew just when to ask what was wrong. The other time I pulled you to your feet and reassured you that a long walk could do wonders. Number 2. Far from this sunny October afternoon, we'll rendezvous, my friend, at this big rock on Cumberland Street, and all will be revealed. We'll sip our drinks, the expensive lattes of our later years, relive this warm glow of late fall sunshine on our arms, of the dreams we dreamed today. Then, as now, our eyes will be closed, warmed as we let the sun seep through our eyelids, remembering the girls we were. 3. Taking the streetcar along St. Clair, I push the window open to feel the wind again through my hair. Reminds me of speed cycling through Toronto streets, dodging doors, potholes, glances. Locking up and taking the subway if I was late, or taking a chance and sailing past Sam's, Eaton's, Lightman's, everything whirling by all the way down Yonge. And this is the final poem and also the title poem for the book. 4. This city swallows me, a casual predator. Bound by its grid of avenues and streets, I wonder at its trappings. I used to wonder how long I could stay here. I used to think I would leave. Now I know the day arrives when you just wake up, willing prey, ensnared in the days you spent. Thank you.